Hey, so probably you doing the same build. Build you've been going is I'm counting on this. I'm counting on this. This guy is weird. Anyway, 1 racks fast expand. This is the TVT build. You shouldn't be using it in TVZ, either CC first or 4 racks. I recommend the 4 racks. I think it's just better all around. But with the 1 racks 1 racks fast expand, you should have 48 workers at 10 minutes. You should have 2-2 and about $7,000 of army and about 200 supply at 15 minutes. Your 2-2 should probably finish around 14, but you know you'll hit 200 U at about 15. Looks like again you did that thing where you're okay. So look how weak your front wall-in is, right? It takes exactly 5 banelings to kill your entire wall-in, to breach your whole wall-in. Not a good wall-in. I already talked earlier about what you should do instead as a wall-in, so do that instead. You want your wall-in to cost at least 10 banelings to get through, if not more. Which doesn't mean you can't use depots. Just remember, a depot is 5. A bunker is 5. A racks is like 11. So, and an engineering bay is like 11. So wall everything except for 1 spot with raxes, and then fill that spot with either depots or bunkers, and then just have 2 of those, a double entry at that 1 spot, so that it takes 10 there too, and then everything will take 10. Same thing as before. It looks like you're going up to 9 racks with a starport, and you're just going 9 racks plus starport and upgrades and marines. So if this build is working for you and you want to keep doing it, then keep doing it. Use it until it doesn't win anymore. But once you stop being 50% with this build, there are just some minor adjustments you can make that will make it much better. So let's go to 15 and see what you have. So again, you're pushing blindly across the field. If he had his whole army right here, you wouldn't know about it. So if he had half his army there and half his army here, and you're walking out and then he comes in and kills your whole army all at once, that would be really bad. And that's actually what happens. This is actually the 2nd time. You sent me 2 replays in which that happened. So you walk out blindly and you get ambushed by his whole army. And you're forced to fight with not your whole army, and yes, his whole army. So this drop in the backfield at the same time as you're fighting is actually really bad for you. He's at 200 U. You're not. Pushing across the field before 2-2 is done is a big mistake, but you didn't actually do that. You pushed after 2-2 was done. But I don't know. I don't know. You're gonna lose some medevacs, lose a bunch of stuff. Gonna do some damage in his base. You're pretty far ahead on damage done here. Because he just happened to be Roach Hydra, you were able to easily just run away, right? Because Roach Hydra is not as fast as Stim Marines. And then, actually, Roach Hydra is quite bad. Bang for the buck for buck against Marines and medevacs. So you're coming out pretty far ahead. Way overstimmed your Marines. Looks like all of them are going to die. You're going to get cleaned up back home, but that also means he's not going to reinforce to the front. And let's look at this. So actually, at 15 minutes, you actually almost hit benchmark in this game. Right? You've got about 7k plus 2-2 and stim and combat shields. That's great. And the reason that you're not at 7k, you had the money for it, it's just that you have no way of spending this gas. You got a ton of gas that there was no way to spend. So I would say you mined enough money in this game, and that probably means that you have about 48 workers. Yeah, 50 workers at 10 minutes, so that's great. 2nd game in a row that I've seen where you did really well on workers, so that's great. Again, with the CC first, you'd have an additional like 3 or 4 workers, but whatever, no big deal. So you have macroed incredibly well. I think the big problem was Again, I kind of want to say you have more Raxes than you needed and you built them earlier than you needed to build them. I kind of want to say that you also don't want to be doing a double drop in his main at the same time as your army is fighting in the middle of the field. It's also important that you not get ambushed. You like need to know what's out there before you go out there. But everything worked out pretty well. Lost some medevacs. This CC should have landed during the fight. I know it takes balls to land a CC during the fight, but worst case, he chases it off into oblivion. He doesn't have any mutas or anything. He can't chase it very far. And there's just no reason to keep it stuck in your main. This drop is quite awesome. This guy's really susceptible to drops. He's losing a lot of stuff for no reason. Drones are faster than Marines. He can just run them away. He doesn't need to lose his whole army. I mean, lose all of his drones there. So you do a multi-pronged drop, you've killed 44 workers, and I think you're just going to kind of kill him. So what happens when you go for a CC first build and someone spots it? Especially if they also see tons of Raxes and no early gas. I don't know if you saw that or not. But if you look at his worker count, you see this? So it's 10 minutes, he's got 70 workers, right? So you did really well. You made the 50 workers you wanted to make. But he did better. He got a bigger army than you, got more money than you. Just because you go CC first into bio, and he's not threatened at all. Your whole army size at 10 minutes is 400 bucks. You are in no way threatening, and it just allows him to do whatever he wants on his side of the map. And that's why I don't like these early CC builds, is because they're so common that even bad players like this guy know how to counter them. And I only say bad players because he let all your drops do tons and tons of damage. And he went Roach Hydra. Who goes Roach Hydra? It's just silly. So the way Roach Hydra works is Roaches actually lose 20% versus Marines, right? And lose even more heavily to Marauders. And Hydras lose by an even larger margin against Marines. But Roaches and Hydras mixed together, with Roaches tanking and Hydras doing damage, they basically break even. So if his army is the exact same size as your army, and he has exactly the right ratio of Roaches to Hydras, and he gets a really good spread, and you don't flank him, then he won't even win the fight, he'll break even. So with Roach Hydra, it's extremely important for him to get more money than you, which is why he's being so ridiculously greedy, which is good. That's what you have to do when you're going for Roach Hydra. So he goes straight up to 70 workers at 10 minutes and just has a much bigger income than you, and you never really catch up until you do those drops. Maybe even then you don't catch up. So he's still way ahead of you on income, still way ahead of you on income, still way ahead of you on income. And this is the problem with non-aggression pacts, right? 20-minute no rush. Is it Zerg is just a better race in 20-minute no rush scenarios, because all of their early tier units are kind of bad, and so like they want the game to go late because they have a better late game than us, and they can get a bigger income than us faster. So everything about the no rush scenario favors Zerg. You just don't want to be doing a no rush style against Zerg. So, which is why the Queen buff is what completely ruined TVZ in the pro scene, by the way. Because they can make 6 queens and save up enough for some transfuses and get a couple spines and be completely immune to anything you can do early. But luckily you're not playing against pros, you're playing against Diamond League people and Platinum people. And the 4-axe opening should do just fine against them. I tried it out, totally worked. Just do that. So your income is stabilized. You got basically the same income as him now. You got your third up, but by the time you get your third up, you're not mining at your natural, and you're a little bit mined out at your main. You really want to be getting that third up a lot earlier. And you're only winning these fights because Marines just crush Roach Roach Hydra, pretty hard. Also, you got an upgrade advantage 3-3 against 3-2. But look how high your gas is going to get. And again, this is because you've made the only thing you have spending gas is one starport with a reactor on it. It's really bad. So, what you can do with your gas, you have options, right? Banshees with cloak is my favorite. Battle cruisers, meh, not so great, but better than not spending your gas, right? Ravens, I would actually vote that you go for Ravens because you can just rally them off to the back of your base and forget about them, and then every once in a while say, oh yeah, I have a bunch of Ravens, and take them and just go drop auto turrets at one of his bases, and then shift rally back to your base, and then forget about them for 4 minutes again, and then do it again. Or what was Thors? Yeah, you can do Thors. Again, Thors aren't very good mixed with Bio because they're not going to have any upgrades, and Thors kind of need to reach a critical mass before they're worth anything. But it's better to have made a Thor than to have made 6 Marines, right? Because you have a $500 thing versus a $300 thing. You know, like just not spending the gas at all, not quite that cool. And then finally there's tanks, and which is what everyone and their brother does. I don't necessarily recommend it. I never make tanks personally, but there's a reason that people make tanks, and it's because they're really gas heavy and they actually go reasonably well with Marines. And especially against Roach Hydra, having tanks can be quite beneficial. So, you know, pick one and make it. Or, I mean, another option, of course, is just not to mine the gas. But then you have to take more command centers and more locations, and you have to defend them. You have to make base and defense it, which is quite hard. I mean, you should be doing that anyway, so the fact that you can't do it now means you couldn't do it if you were mining less gas either. Dun, dun, dun. Roach Hydra, Roach Infestor is one of the best ZVT compositions against somebody who's just massing Marines. Like, man, Infestors are so cost effective against Marines. And they're really good at knocking down drops, and they're really good against all sorts of stuff like that. But the way that Roach Hydra plays out, not Roach Hydra, Roach Infestor, I guess now that infested Terrans have been nerfed, it might not be as good. But yeah, the way it plays out is that Roaches are very cost ineffective, so you want as few as possible while still surviving, which means that you're kind of just massing Infestors. And then you have so many various locations. Roaches aren't quite as fast as Lings to defend, that you end up just defending and defending and defending and defending, and then you transition into Broodlords or Ultras. It usually transitions pretty well into Ultras, because Ultra Infestor is quite cool. But, oh, you know, Infestor Broodlord's good too. He's really bad against these drops. You do a drop and he brings his whole army to one of them. These are really good drops. Good job. Anyway, you kicked that guy's butt. You did really good with your early macro. You didn't even pile up too much gas, so that's quite good. I wouldn't recommend any improvements, man. That was good. Would have gone better if you'd done a slightly different build. As we saw, he had 70 workers at 10 minutes, but you know, it was good. Just generally good. Boy, I'm getting sleepy. Let's, actually, before we watch this. Dun, 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 dun. Maybe it was this one. You two. So what I'm hoping to see here is the kind of standard CC first into a bunch of Marines and medevacs kind of thing, right? Same build as you're doing except with the CC first. and then these Raxes go up, and if you need to, you can cut workers and get that 4th Rax to wall in if you see some Lings coming, so it's totally fine. Then we're going for this double wall in, right? You put the big heavy things here, bunker here, and then we're going to put another bunker behind it. Dun, dun, dun. Another bunker. So Baneling splash distance is 2.5. Size of a depot is 2. So if you splash the edge of a depot, you can hit whatever's behind it. But a bunker is 3, so he can't splash through this into that. So you can make multiple bunkers touching each other, and it's totally fine. So I walked out with a Marine to take the watchtower, and I saw a bunch of roaches. And I'm like, okay, he's doing a roach Baneling all in. That was just kind of lucky that I even saw it coming. So having seen it coming, I make 2 additional bunkers and whatever. But even with just these 2 bunkers, look how many Banelings it takes just for him to get in. So there goes 5 Banelings. And that's all he really had. You know, he had like 7 Banelings, and they were all dead after the first bunker went down. So this second bunker is still alive, and it's still going to be alive for a really long time. And if I lifted these depots, he would have been stuck in this teeny tiny choke area with a siege tank and a bunch of Marines shooting at him. So that's the general idea of the wall, and you want, if you had just a couple of depots in front of one bunker like you usually do, then you would be dead. Yeah, I just wanted to show you that, because the next game is